La 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 la. Rhythm, rhythm, rekja mig för sanden. Renar sola back vid Arnarfält. Hér á reykjer margur og renandin. Úr þau færa skegja jökulsfält. Sturla, the law speaker, does not consider any outlaw to be as distinguished as Grettir the Strong. He justifies this on 3 grounds. First, that he was the wisest, since he was not overcome for the longest time until he lost his health. Second, he was the strongest and more capable than his contemporaries of laying ghosts and visitations to rest. Third, that unlike any other Icelander, his death was avenged in Constantinople, and the one who avenged his death became so favored by fortune in the final years of his life. I come to you now in the spirit of Austhis, mother of Grettir. Forgive me as I take this opportunity now to speak to my son Grettir, for I feel his presence in this place. I cannot understand how it is that his life unfolded as it did. And yet, I know the fates have woven it so. As Skirnir the Shining One would say, fearlessness is better than a faint heart for any man who puts his nose out of doors. The length of my life and the day of my death were fated long ago. Grettir, you were a fearless man. You lived up to and went beyond the expectations of your great-grandfather. That man would say to you, any descendant of mine will wish to be a free man, will seek justice, and will remain in the service of those deserving and loyal. He will cherish family ties. Grettir, you did all these things. All who watched you grow saw you flourish, but then your luck changed. You faltered. How did that happen, my Grettir? I know I cannot change you now, nor can I change the course of the fates. I can offer up this verse. I seek again that soft spot, that velvet cheek, that trusting glance, that playful, artful boy, my son, one who would be bold, ever so bold, yet loving too. Grettir, snake, you slipped away from me. You were glorified, denied, despised, pushed into a corner where darkness lurked. You surprised them, haunted them, trifled with them, defied them. And now you linger in our thoughts and dreams. In anxious screams by tranquil streams, we find your stepping stones, traces of your bones, your hideaways, your outlaw days. But listen now, Grettir. The Loa sings and sings and sings of your steadfast might. Oh, Grettir, my son.
Grettir the Strong, Grettir the Powerful, Grettir the Outlaw. Grettir had been outlawed for many long years. No one was allowed to help him. Even his family could not harbor him. And so he lived in wild places, upon mountain tops and in hidden valleys. But after years he had grown so lonely. He desired to be near people. And so he had heard that there was a young woman by the name of Steinvar, a young farm wife who had fallen on hard times. Grettir decided that he would do a good deed, and he went to help her. He disguised himself as guest. Grettir heard that 2 years ago, Steinvar had gone off to Christmas Mass. When she returned, her husband was gone, and her house torn apart. No one ever heard from him again. The following year, she went off to Christmas Mass. When she returned, her farmhand was gone, leaving only blood upon the door. It became known that Steinvar's farm was haunted by trolls. And so, Gest appeared before her, and he offered his help. He said, "I come to help you, but tell me, can you give me food and shelter?" Young Steinvar replied, "Yes, I have food and I have shelter. But why would you want to come here? Have you not heard this is a place of ill omen? It is a place of strange occurrences." Gest replied, "Indeed, I have heard, and I may be some help to you." Gest asked, "Would you like to go to Christmas Mass?" as it was Christmas yet again. And young Steinvar replied, "Yes, I desire to go, but I cannot go, for the river is in flood, and there's no way to cross." Gest replied, "I will take you." And he lifted the young woman up in one arm. She noted that he was strong and powerfully built, and off into the river they went. Now Gest, holding her in one arm, simply pushed the icebergs out of the way as they crossed the river. And even though the water, that raging torrent of river, flowed across his shoulders, he made his way through the river. Steinvar was frightened, but they got across safely. Steinvar went off to Christmas Mass, and the people asked, "How is it that you have come across the river in flood?" And she replied, "I do not know how it is I crossed, whether I was brought by a man or a troll." Now the priest was listening, and he replied, "Ah, I believe it was a man, and he may be the remedy to your difficulties." Meanwhile, Grettir crossed back across the river to Steinvar's farm. He commanded that all the people left should shelter in the back of the house, and he built a great barricade, using all the wood and benches and timbers he could find. And then he lay down to sleep. Round about midnight, there was such a thunderous lumbering outside the door, and the door to the farmhouse was ripped off the hinges, and there entered the ferocious troll woman. She was huge and ugly, and she carried in one hand a great meat cleaver, and in the other a meat trough, and she looked about the farmhouse as if looking in the storeroom for something to eat. There she spied Grettir. Grettir dashed to his feet, and they engaged in such a battle, wrestling all through that house. Oh, she was strong, stronger than Grettir. But Grettir was clever and skillful and quick upon his feet, and so he dodged her blows. They fought on, until finally she put her arms around Grettir and held him in such a grip that he could not move. She proceeded to drag him out of the house, the very timbers of the house around their necks. She dragged him all the way down to the chasm. There, at the bottom of the cliff, the river raged below. Oh, Grettir thought he was done for, as she was about to throw him off the great chasm. But he was able to shift his weight in such a way to throw her off balance. And in that instant, she loosened her grip, and Grettir reached back and he grabbed his short sword. And in one blow, he cut off her arm. And the troll woman, down, down, down she fell to her death. Oh, Grettir, Grettir the Strong, Grettir the Powerful, Grettir the Outlaw, what deeds you accomplish.